Good evening and welcome to this evening's edition of the Vision Root video blog. I'm your host Richard Urban, coming to you from historic Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. I'd like to begin with the reading from the words of Reverend Sun Myung Moon from In Search of the Origin of the Universe, given August 1st, 1996, in Washington, D.C. Then, what did God expect from Adam and Eve? God expected absolute sex from them. You world leaders gathered here tonight, please learn this truth and take it back to your countries. If you start a campaign to secure absolute sex in your country, your families and your nation will go straight to heaven. When there is absolute sex, an absolute couple will emerge automatically. Words such as free sex, homosexual, and lesbian will naturally disappear. Reverend Moon has lived an entire life overcoming a suffering path in order to initiate this kind of movement worldwide. Now the time has come for Reverend Moon to trumpet the fanfare of victory and move the entire world. Therefore, I am grateful to God. And a little bit further in the speech, I wish that you would center on the absolute sexual organ, unique sexual organ, unchanging sexual organ, and eternal sexual organ, and use this as your foundation to pursue God. You should realize that this foundation should become the foundation of love, life, lineage, and conscience. We also have to realize that the kingdom of God on earth and in heaven will begin on this foundation. That ends the reading. Again, our topic tonight is, what is the New Jesus Movement? Well, as you may know, the Jesus Movement was a movement when a lot of young people started moving into kind of communes, and it was considered to be like the Christian outgrowth of the whole hippie movement of the late 60s, early 70s. And I joined the unification movement in 1975, and I consider that as kind of basically a similar type of movement in the fact that we're honoring Jesus and lifting up Jesus in a new way and giving great honor and respect for Jesus. And there's this great movement. A lot of people joined the unification movement. They joined the Way, and a lot of the Way was another Christian movement, and a lot of different movements, the Farm, a lot of places to give honor and respect to Jesus in a new and radical way. Some lived on communes. Probably a lot of those people eventually blended into, Christian life, or what do you say, life in general. But we have a need now for a new Jesus movement. So some people called that the Fourth Great Awakening. And some people are calling what they will see as this new Jesus movement as the Fifth Great Awakening. Well, when is the time for this new Jesus movement to occur? Well, it's right now. You say now? Yes, now. If ever there's a time for the need for this new Jesus movement, it's now. And I believe God is calling his select and elect to this new Jesus movement. Well, what will this movement be about? Well, some people have written about it. Like if you look on like Conservapedia, you'll find an article about it. But the author doesn't really know what's going to comprise this new Jesus movement. He talks vaguely about family values, maybe helping the poor, things like that. Well, that's nice, but it's going to be a lot more specific than that. I'll tell you what it's going to be about right now. It's going to be about a repudiation of the society's satanic values. What are those values about? Well, turn on the TV, turn on the internet, turn on the radio. It's about sex. It's about sick, S-I-C-K sex. It's about uncommitted sex. It's about all kinds of perverted sex, everything else. Yes, there's some good songs out there too, don't get me wrong. And there is, Christian music that is very good. But in the popular culture, we know that the so-called people who, teens or tweens and young adults supposedly, listen to, like, well, I guess she's more of an older figure, but like Beyonce, whatever. I mean, if you look at how she was dressed for the recent, what do you say, Grammy Awards, my gosh, you think she's trying to dress up like some kind of sex goddess or something. I mean, it was bizarre. Anyway, he's not a role model for anybody about anything having to do with sex. I'll tell you that. Unless, you know, you want to have a bad role model talking about, you know, perverted sex or something like that. So who is a role model for that? Well, I would venture it is couples that are faithful in marriage. And specifically, who is teaching Jesus' view on marriage? Well, Jesus was mysterious on marriage. He didn't talk a lot about marriage, and as you know, Jesus wasn't married. He talked about, Paul, not Jesus, talked about, well, hey, if you're going to marry, if you're going to burn, that is, burn with sexual desire, hey, it's better to marry than to burn. Okay, so that's not a very positive view of marriage. So where are we going to find this view of marriage? Well, we're going to find this view of marriage specifically in the words of Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Why Reverend Sun Myung Moon? Well, Reverend Moon has come as the person commissioned by Jesus Christ to carry on his work at the second coming. How would you know that? Well, I know that as a fact. But if you didn't know that as a fact, you could know it by looking at the state of sexuality in our society today. I mean, every kind of sexual perversion is held up as good. Like, hey, you don't like two men having sex? Hey, you're homophobic. You don't like women having sex? Well, you're, you know, also homophobic. Um, you don't like perverted sex? You don't think it's okay for men to have sex with, you know, underage kids? Well, something's wrong with you. That's coming down the pike, too. You don't think there's, you know, 26 different genders? What's wrong with you? You don't think women or women who think they're men or men who think they're women should go in the women's restroom? Hey, what's wrong with you? You're intolerant. Oh my gosh, everything is completely confused. And a lot of this is because Jesus wasn't able to define in his lifetime the clear standard of for the married couple. So we're expecting, you know, to enter heaven after we die, many Christians. But Jesus said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So how will heaven be built? Well, it's going to be built through the model of couples, of families. That's what Reverend Moon is talking about. Jesus said he came as a bridegroom. Well, what does a bridegroom take? A bride. Jesus said that there would be a wedding banquet, and that blessed are those that wash their robes, that they may have the right to the tree of life. Tree of life is a symbol for Adam. Adam fell. He had a premature sexual relationship with Eve. If you didn't know that, you need to study more about teachings of Reverend Moon. So the point is that this new movement time is now, and I found through working with the, you know, movement of abstinence from sex before marriage that the youth are ripe for this movement. They're sick and tired of hearing a pile of crazy stuff about everything, you know, and how perverted it is. They want something that's true. They want something that's real. They're ready to hear this movement. And I would urge any youth who are hearing this, as well as young adults or even older people, to, you know, promote this movement. This is the new Jesus movement. It's the movement of what Reverend Moon calls absolutely good sex. What does that mean? That means you don't have sex until you're married. That means when you're married, you're faithful to your spouse. That's good sex. That's the way God intended, you know, his kingdom to come forth. But there's a problem. We all inherit original sin. So how are we going to break the bonds of original sin? Well, Reverend Moon has explained it'll be through true love, life, and lineage. Where does the lineage come from? It comes from Christ at his second advent. And I'm here to tell you that Christ already has made his second advent. He made it through Reverend Mrs. Moon. So if you don't know about that, well, this is the time to start finding out about it. So, if you're wondering why all stuff in the world is so sexually perverted and crazy, is because God has already set the standard, and Satan is like doing anything and everything he wants before he goes down the tubes. And I believe if you pray on this message, you're going to see that this is the right thing. And I urge you to go ahead and study the words of Reverend Moon. Also, sign up for our daily inspiration. And we also have many materials teach about sexual abstinence. Our nonprofit is Urban Life Training. We do that, and we also have spiritual materials too through our Star Interfaith training. So this is the new sexual revolution. This is a revolution that is happening and will be happening. This is a new Jesus movement. Those who truly love Jesus are those who are now saving themselves for their future partner to bring about God's lineage through God's blessing. Reverend Moon came and also with his wife, and now has passed that on to, his inheritor, his son, to pass on this lineage. So we'll be kings and queens under God's authority once we receive his blessing. So God wants to bless us to that authority, and we can only do that through Jesus Christ, through the second coming of Jesus Christ. That is Reverend Moon at his second coming. So I hope you'll join with this new Jesus movement. It's a very important movement, and the world is desperately in need of it. So I know those of you who are hearing this will realize that that is true. So as you join this movement, you can contact me through my website at urbanlifetraining.org or visionroot.org. And I hope you've enjoyed this message, and I hope you will join this new movement. And also I want to mention that this is 100th anniversary of the Niagara movement. And the Niagara movement was started, actually it's 101st anniversary, but it's the 100th anniversary of the conference they had, guess where? Right here in historic Harper's Ferry. They chose this place because this was the place where many people feel the Civil War, really the foundation was started through John Brown's raid. So it's very interesting to me that this is a 100th anniversary. And I believe the time is ripe for this new movement. You could call it a new Niagara movement or call it whatever you want. That was a movement that was founded in 1906 and 7 by W. Du Bois and the other leaders of that age. That was a precursor to the civil rights movement. This will be an even larger movement for the rights of humanity to come back into God's dominion and true sexuality and throw off this abusive, satanic, sick sexuality that society has become awash in. So, I'm very happy again to announce this new sexual revolution, this new Jesus movement of true and pure love. I hope you will join it. It's a great movement, and I hope we'll be seeing you and hearing from you. Do sign up for the Daily Inspiration. Do contact us, and have a great evening. This is Richard Urban. I'm talking about the new Jesus movement, and I wish you to be blessed and have a great evening. Good night from historic Harper's Ferry.